This is Culture Girl. I'm here with Max Anderson, director of the Indianapolis Museum of Art, at the future site of the Fairbanks Art and Nature Park that is now very much under construction, as you can see right here, scheduled to open next June. Max, tell us what's going on, what kinds of works are we going to be seeing here, and what's the concept behind it all?
Well, the park is 100 acres in size, and that includes a 35-acre lake. So we have 8 inaugural artists who are working towards the June 2010 opening. And they range from artists working on the water to an architect, Marlon Blackwell, building the visitors pavilion behind us. So in concurrent operations, we have lots of construction going on around the park today in a chilly early November day.
Yes. And you're opening in June. What's scheduled for that? Are there any special events, or how are you going to introduce this to the public?
Well, the park's going to be a work in progress for the next decades because it'll always be changing. Even though we opened to the public on the weekend of June 20th, 2010, we're opening with the first 8 commissions. But within a year or so, we'll begin introducing more commissions, and we'll begin to retire the first commissions over time. So you'll never really have seen the entire experience if you come just once, and that's part of the premise behind the park, rather than a series of permanent sites. These are each meant to be, apart from the visitors pavilion, objects in space that won't last necessarily for any more than half a decade or a decade.
And tell us a little bit about a few of the 8 inaugural commissions. I saw an interesting boat. Tell us about that one, and anything else that you think is of particular interest to Culture Girl readers.
Well, I think they're all interesting. I certainly think every artist has put, and every collective has put, a lot of energy and imagination into the project. Alfredo Jar is building a beautiful space called the Park of the Laments, which is a park within a park, and will provide a glorious space for reflection about nature. And then you have Teija Makepa, who's a Finnish artist, who's building a ship that we're actually launching next week and christening next week in the water. And it's basically a ship about immigration here in the state of Indiana, and immigration all around the world with the problems we face with global warming, as places that are situated today as civilized places may not be civilized in generations to come. And many other artists that include Kendall Buster, who's doing a beautiful space for visitors to fish and picnic, and the Dutch group Atelier van Lieshout is doing a series of benches in the form of human bones, and you'll be able to sit on those very large picnic tables and benches. We have a collective from Cuba, Los Carpinteros, who are building a very unusual basketball court that has extruded aluminum tubes. And we have, in other words, quite a group of artists from all over the world.
But it is an art and nature park, and I understand from you that nature is a very important part of all this. Can you elaborate a little bit about the educational component having to do with the natural site, and also some of the works you've been doing in trying to replace things that you've been having to clear? Tell us a little about that aspect of the project.
Well, we're in a space that was not a pristine natural environment, nor was it a plain mown grass field. So it's in between those two. It was an industrial site where the lake was created by excavating gravel to build an interstate, I-65, not far from here. And eventually nature took over and regrew over spaces that had been used with industrial purpose and were blighted in some ways. And what we're doing is trying to preserve the wetlands and woodlands and meadow and lake in ways that are sympathetic to their current condition, but also to, as we build new spaces, respect what we inherited and what we found. So we're actually putting back many of the fallen trees that were removed to make room for the foundations of the visitors pavilion behind us, for example. So it's a hybrid of art and nature, as you say, and a place for people to learn about how man's touch on nature is not always that of a gardener looking to make something beautiful. It's often with other purposes in mind, and many of the artists have taken that into consideration in the way they've put their projects together.
Well, I look forward to seeing this work in progress when it's no longer in progress. Thanks so much, Max.
Thank you, Lee.